Okay, so in this Nashorn video, we're going to attach the hull sides. First thing you want to do is sort of hand flatten them as best you can. And then, like, it's a bit of a operation to actually get these attached, and you kind of have to do it all at once. So to make it a little bit easier, what I like to do, you can just kind of dive ahead and do it sort of all at once, but it's a lot more difficult than this method. I'm going to take a little bit of glue. I'm just going to put it along the bottom here of the chassis. And I'm going to take some patches, fairly long ones, and just lay those right down there. So I can attach the bottom independently of the rest of it. So it kind of opens and closes more like a door. And that will give me more time to find where everything else lays. So once you've got those attached, I mean, it should dry almost instantly. Take your flattened bit, apply glue to it, just to the side. And you don't have to worry about covering any of these symbols because the tracing paper is so thin, you can just see right through it. And so being really careful to this goes right where that red line is. Just sit it onto the patches. Make sure the back line is also lined up. And then you can just kind of fold those patches over to get it to attach on one side. Oh, that's pretty good. It's not perfectly on target. You can see how the arrows are supposed to line up right with the blue areas. But yeah, actually that's fine. So the arrows should line up with the front of the blue areas. That works. Yeah, everything's pretty nicely meeting up now. As you can see, like, this still opens sort of like a door, so we still have access to all these interior areas. What we're going to do is take 4-to-1 glue and kind of make a bead on all of these active areas. And we're going to try to glue it in all at once. So this is a bit of a scary thing. And if your 4-to-1 glue's watery at all, you might want to thicken it up because you really want it to bead on the outside. But I do recommend a little bit of water in there because you're going to need some time. Straight glue tends to bond right away. Now when you're making this bond, don't worry about this back part lining up perfectly. It's going to be covered by the superstructure anyways, so that is not your concern at this point. Mostly what we're going to pay attention to is the top. If you get the top right, the rest of these angles should just fall into place for you. Don't be afraid, like, if it starts bonding and you're not happy with where it's meeting up, to pull it apart and start again. But just try to keep at it. If everything doesn't bond perfectly, you can patch over the areas that you didn't get a bond on. As long as you've gotten the right shape, which is pretty difficult sometimes, I would stick with it and then just patch over any area you're not happy with. Now, one trick you can also use is to use a stick to push areas into position a little bit better from the inside. But you don't have a whole lot of time to do that once it starts bonding. And when you do the other side, way easier, because now it just sits in its natural shape and you can just kind of pop that on there, squish the parts in a little bit, and you should be a go. So the second side's a lot easier. The only part that makes it a little bit more difficult is that you can't get anything inside there anymore to push it. So you do have to kind of... Now, if you don't get it to follow exactly perfect, you might still be okay, but I can't guarantee it, so I do recommend that you get it as close to perfect as you can. And again, don't be afraid to pull it apart if you need to. Okay, so do that for both sides. The second side should be fairly easy. I'll just maybe show that as well in case problems arise. You can see me solve them, and then maybe that will make your own problems less. So you don't need to use the bottom patch method for the second side. Generally, I don't do that. Just go ahead and attach it. Because most of the struggle has been done on the other side, hopefully. And if you can't get it to bond the all in one go like this, you can always pull it apart and use the patch method. Say if your piece is a little off kilter or something. And again, make sure to sort of flatten this so that when it goes down, you're not fighting with its shape then. Make sure your arrows are lined up to the front of those blue things. Try to get all that bottom part in the correct area first. And then push the rest of it into position. And again, it may not match it perfectly. I mean, there is some randomness to how that parts end up being cut out. So, but it should be close enough that you can get it to bond. I mean, there's randomness to how I cut the parts out. Maybe you have better skill with scissors or a knife or whatever, but... Yeah, I didn't quite get this to match, but I'll just take a blade and cut that down a little bit before going much further. It should fix the problem. Like I said, you don't have to match it perfectly, but you need to get it pretty close, especially these back areas. It's very key. Alright, so that should get you to the next video. Hope you enjoyed this one, and see you soon. Join the website and support us if you can. Thanks a lot. Bye for now.